Well, I've had several requests to do a video on how I clean a muzzleloader. And several of them have noticed that, or made comments that I'm using guns that's old, and I got guns that's 50, 60 years old. They're in good shape, and they're not because they spent their lives sitting in a safe or anything. They're used. What guns I've got, I use. I don't abuse them, but I use them. It's really not hard to take care of a firearm and keep it in pretty good shape. Just requires a little bit of thought and maybe just a little bit of effort on your part. I've got videos like coming out here, like this season, a gun that got wet because I walked out here during a rainstorm. Well, when I got out here quickly, I've got paper towels out here, and I've got a cloth that's pre-wetted, I've got ballistol on. So I dry the gun off and wipe it down with ballistol. And when I go out hunting in the woods, whenever I carry that little bag or a bag like that with a little rash, got some ballistol on it. And if your gun gets wet or something or whatever you feel like you need, just take it out and take a second and wipe it down with ballistol. That's good for you metal and your wood too. So today I'm going to try to do that little video on how I clean a muzzleloader, a traditional muzzleloader. And what I've got here, I've got my Kibler wood thrower. And this thing, it's flintlock, and it's been loaded for a solid month, at least a month, including. Now, when I say loaded, I mean it's loaded. The primer pan's full of primer powder. It's been loaded, and for at least a month, and it's been a lot of humid, rainy, and snowy weather. Yeah, it's been sitting out here and carried back and forth to the house maybe, but primarily sitting out here in the quickly. But it's been subjected to a lot of weather changes, a lot of humidity and all that kind of stuff. And of course I wiped it down with ballistol and all that. But black powder attracts moisture. On some wet, rainy days and stuff like that, you'll open your priming pan and your powder will be soup. It'll be black soup. It won't be loose powder. It'll be soup. It's soaking wet. And this pan has not been opened in quite a while. So when I open it, I don't know what I'm going to see. Am I going to see soup or am I going to see powder? I don't know. Because as I said, it's been loaded for at least a month, and including the pan itself. So let's just see what the pan looks like. Oh my. I don't know if you can see that or not. But the powder is loose. That looks great. Like I said, it's been loaded for a month under very lot of damp conditions and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and shoot it, then take it back to the house and clean it up and dry it up and get it loaded for the last late muzzleloader season, which opens in just a few days. So we'll take it back, clean it, dry it out, let it set a little while, and then reload it, get it loaded up again for the last 3 weeks of muzzleloader season. But I'm going to shoot it, that'll foul it, then we'll take it back to the house and go through the cleaning process. Let's open this up a window here. You can shoot out of. We don't want to shoot through the window. But anyway, there's a window open here. I'm gonna stick me some ear protection on here. And let's just see if this flintlock that's been loaded for a month, see if it'll go off with the first shot or not. Or first time we pull the trigger, I should say. Let's see. Well, that answers that question. It surely went off. It surely did. So, we'll go back to the house now and do a little bit of cleaning up. I love this rifle. My goodness. Quigley's full of smoke for some reason or other, some strange reason or other. So as to the actual cleaning process that I do on my flintlocks, I'll try to go through it a little bit here briefly. But there's nothing magical about it. We just got to remember a few things. Black powder attracts moisture. And black powder fouling, in other words, once you shot it, that fouling absolutely attracts moisture. Water dissolves black powder. Moisture and water causes rust. Oil prevents rust. So the main thing you want to do is, as soon as reasonably possible, you want to clean that rifle. You don't want to let it linger around. You want to clean it right away, which is usually what I do. And it's just been a little while since I fired this thing, so I'll bring it in here in the house and I'm going to start my cleaning procedure. And the first thing I'm going to do is take the lock off of it. You surely don't have to take the lock off every time that you clean it, but it's certainly not a bad idea. And it only takes a few seconds. So I like to take that lock out. I loosen the screws, press in on those screws, and that releases the lock. And if you look at this lock, it's clean. It's a good tight fit from the lock against the side of the breech, so there's no powder that's come back in to my lock. But residue and everything gets around the lock itself and under the cock and all that. So normally, I will go ahead and take my flint out. But normally I don't drop it in the floor like I did that time. Anyway, so after taking the lock off and taking the flint out of the lock, I turn my rifle over to where my vent hole here will be up. Because the first thing I'm going to do is start cleaning this with water. And I don't want the water running out of that vent hole, if it's down, and running back between the wood and the metal anywhere. So I turn my vent hole up first. So I'll lay me out a few patches and a little bowl of just plain water. And I'll put me a few patches in there to be soaking. And then my first passes through there is going to be with a bronze brush. I'll get me one of these patches of water, drape it over your rods, and then start passing it through the bore. I generally get me another patch, soaked with water, run it through the board. So that's starting my process. Then I usually get my ramrod out of the way. While that's soaking, I'll get me a dry patch, and I'll put a little bit of moose milk on it. Wet it down with moose milk, which is nothing but ballistol and water. This is 75% water, 25% ballistol. And I will use that to wipe off the area where the blowback comes. So I'll clean around this area with moose milk, ballistol and water. I will also use that same ballistol and water to roughly clean my lock. Thing about the moose milk, the ballistol and water, that's nothing. Ballistol is water soluble oil. So if you clean with ballistol, moose milk, when the water evaporates, it leaves a coat of oil. Remember, oil presents rust. So I'll wipe that down a little bit with ballistol. Then go to my next step. So in my next step, I take a breech plug, if it ever come into focus, a breech plug scraper, run it back, twist it a few times. That really cleans off that face of that breech plug. Then I go to a regular cleaning jag, again with just water. Twist it around. Twist it around. Try to clean that breach area and the inside of their touch hole. So now everything's wetted down. Now I'll just let that set a few minutes. I turned the rifle with the flash hole down now, so I want drainage to come out of it now. But I'm using moose milk now, just moose milk on my patches. I dried the excess water out. Now I'm going to use just moose milk, which is 75% water, 25% ballistol. The patches are already coming quite clean, quite clean. So I will use my moose milk patches. Like I said, that's going through that flash hole out there now. So it's cleaning the flash hole too. See, I'm clean. Very clean. So now I've got everything in there clean. Now I want to dry it. Because the number one trick to having these things go off, any gun for that matter, especially a flintlock, everything, it's got to be dry. It's got to be powder dry. So I will wipe out. That patch is quite damp. Start wiping out the excess moose milk. I will do that so that patch feels pretty doggone dry. Then I'll wipe all the moisture off of my cleaning rod. All the moisture off that. And I will take a dry patch. Put it down the bore, firmly against the breech. Now I'm going to leave that patch for a little while. Now I'm going to come back to my lock area. Take a dry cloth and dry that moose milk and everything off this area. I want to get this good and dry now. Got a little bit of moisture. They come through that vent hole. Now I'll take a toothpick, a round wooden toothpick. I'll clean that, run it around that vent hole. There's nothing on the toothpick. It's clean. And any moisture that might be on it, that wooden toothpick will dry it. There's nothing on that toothpick. It's vent hole's clean. So I lubricated all, put a little drop of ballast oil on all the important working parts in there. Then I'll take a cloth, put a little ballast oil on it, and just wipe the rest of my lock down. Then I will wipe all the metal, and ballast oil is good for the wood too. So I'll just wipe the whole thing down. So I'll just wipe the entire gun down with ballast oil, wood, metal, and all. Now I'll take this patch, that dry patch that's been hopefully soaking up any excess water or anything that's been in there. I'll take another patch. Put a bit of ballast oil on that patch. Then I'll run that down the barrel. I'll do that several times. Make sure everything's got a coat of ballast oil on it. Now it don't take, once you got that black powder fouling out there, it don't take a whole lot to prevent rust. So now I'm pretty confident that I've got a coat of ballast on everything in that bore. Now I'm going to take a dry patch, get as much of it out as I can. I don't want any of it left in there to contaminate my powder. So I get all the ballast oil out there that I can get with a couple of patches. Dixie, my pup's trying to get my dirty cleaning patches. Now, next step, I'll take a dry patch, and this is my lube, my homemade lube, which is beeswax, olive oil, and a little bit of coconut oil. I'll get plenty of that. And I will coat the wool or the bore with beeswax and olive oil. This is not runny like ballistol or pure oil will be. This is mostly beeswax with just enough oil in it to soften it up a little bit. Then I'll take that same cleaning patch, rub down the whole gun. So I'll rub down the whole gun with patch lube, which is basically nothing but beeswax and a little bit of oil, which that's also good for the metal, the wood, the whole 9 yards. So I rub that down.
I can't understand anything you're saying.
So I rub that down. My wife come here and said she couldn't understand a thing I was saying. I said, well, she won't reckon she had to. But anyway, rub it all down with that. And at this point, I will put my lock back in. Alternate between the screws here. Don't get one plumb tight and the other one perfectly loose. You want to pull that lock evenly back in. And you don't want to over tighten, just snug. You don't want to over tighten it. Doesn't snug. Now, next thing, is I take my clean cloth and I wipe down and try to wipe off all this oil and wax and everything else that I've put on this rifle. Wipe everything on it off that I've put on it, because it don't take much to preserve your gun. You don't want to drench it in oil or anything else. And that dry cloth is not going to get all of it off by any means. It will leave enough. Now, I'm going to show you something if I can. What will happen if you don't get to it quickly? I don't know if you can see in here or not. But let me pull this back. Can you see these rust pits, these rust little spots right here? There's several of them there. And that came because I come in one night, somehow or another I got distracted, and I didn't clean this thing till the next day. And it had all that rust pits on it. So, to get on it quickly, don't let moss grow on it till you get there and clean it up, because you do need to get that black powder fouling off as soon as possible. But that little spots of rusty spots right there, yeah, I could get them off, but I don't want to, for a couple of reasons. One, it just looks more authentic. It just makes it look like even though it's a new rifle, it makes it look like an old, well-used rifle. But secondly, it's a constant reminder, don't forget to clean the thing. So now all that's left is put the flint back in. So let me see if I can point out sort of what I do. Put my flint back in. You gotta make sure your jaws are open wide. I put my buckskin patch around my flint, and I just barely snug it down. And I want to close my frizzen. Then I'm going to cock. Let me move this out a little bit. I'm going to cock this thing. Okay. I got to move it forward a little more. Then I'm going to hold back on the frizzen, hold it close, and I'm going to release this hammer and let that flint come down against the face of that frizzen. That aligns it perfectly. Then I'll snug it down. Then the next thing is I want to drop it down and make sure that the flint clears the side of my barrel, because if it don't, you might knock a chunk out of your flint. So it does. Everything's clear and good. Looking good. One last time. Drop it down against your frizzen. And snug it down good. One more quick check. She's doing good. Now, even though I've got oil and everything on here, we should still see the spark, and we do. So everything's cool. It's looking good. It's ready to be put away now. She's ready to go. It don't take long, and it's not rocket science. Just get the fouling out, dissolve that with water, and then get your water out and give it a coat of oil. That's basically all there is to it. There's nothing to it. So I hope that answers the several questions that I've had. So now, my beautiful Kibler Woods Runner is all cleaned up. And here in a few days, it'll be loaded up again for the final 3 weeks of our late muzzleloader season. See if we can luck out, get a few does, maybe a buck with this thing before that season's over. Talk soon.